Hey everybody, my name is Anshul Samar. I'm the CEO and founder of Alchemist Empire Inc. and the creator of Elementeo, the chemistry card game. Today I'd like to talk to you all about product development. I think it becomes very exciting when we all get interesting and unique ideas, whether something different or solutions to very pressing problems. But it becomes an also very interesting experience when we try to take that very initial conceptualization through development, through prototyping, through testing, and finally our product launch. So before I dive into product development, I want to give a brief shout out to everybody at Independent Youth. Thank you for organizing these webinars and seminars, and also I hope that everybody listening enjoys the presentation. Let's begin. I'm going to talk about 4 different things today, the first of which is what is science really about. Alchemist Empire is in the space of science and education. I'll give a brief intro to my chemistry card game, Elementeo, go inside the lab or behind the scenes to learn about how the development process actually works, and then finally talk about entrepreneurship. Now, rather than have a bunch of text on these PowerPoint slides, I thought that I would have pictures directly from the Elementeo game. As a brief overview, Elementeo helps kids explore the world of science and chemistry through gaming. This actually is one of our illustrations from our card Silicon Techno, and I think it perfectly encapsulates what science, chemistry, and product development is about. It's really about tinkering and thinking. Especially when we start creating our initial ideas, we're really searching all around trying to find the perfect combination of things, and that's really part of tinkering and thinking. When we're thinking about new and exciting things, especially when we begin to mix and match in different products, different ideas, and completely different worlds. And finally, when we build and break. The very initial prototypes, as I will show you when we get to the development phase of this PowerPoint presentation, that there's a lot of building and there's also a lot of breaking. Because you start building cool and exciting things and you realize this isn't working, you want to change something, and you want to try something different. Now, moving into what my own game is about, I realize that there's a lot of times these days in schools we begin to feel that, or not as much in school, whether in schools or whether at home, that science has become something of memorization, formulas, stinky odors, especially in regards to chemistry. And I felt that if we could change that, these days many of us feel that anything that has to do with learning isn't fun, and anything that's fun isn't learning. So that's what I really tried to target. That was the problem that I tried to face. And what it ended up becoming is something to do with connecting the dots. That if we can take all this learning and we can take this education, what our parents really want us to do, and we can take what we really would like, which is fun and excitement, and somehow combine these. If I could create a game that could help kids explore the world of science, that was my idea, and that's what I hoped I could develop. And out of that, after three years of development, came the Elementeo chemistry card game. This is a fun chemistry card game with different elements and compounds and alchemy cards, really giving personalities to the different elements. No chemistry knowledge needed. And by giving personalities, what I mean is really personifying these different characters. For example, oxygen became oxygen life giver. Sodium became sodium dragon. Helium became helium genie. These elements could fight with one another on the battlefield, use oxidation states, use reactions, really trying to show that chemistry is all about interactions between these different elements. Copper Cyclops, for example, could shock different element cards. Helium can lift cards. Oxygen can rust different elements. So let's take a look at one of the element cards in the game. Now this is Iron Centaur. I know there's a lot of stuff going around here, but let's just take a look at one thing at a time. First, at the description. So although he lives in the Earth's core, Iron often gallops to the crust to make steel, buildings, and magnets. He also trots inside your blood, carrying oxygen on his back. You indeed can feel him trot. Just put a finger on your pulse. There's a few different things I'd like to bring attention to on this Iron Centaur card. Remember, we're really trying to combine 2 different worlds, a world of fantasy and gaming, and a world of chemistry. So first is its fantasy name, Iron Centaur, its symbol, Fe, its atomic number, its family, it's a transition metal, its atomic weight, its a description, and finally 2 very important things to our gameplay, its movement which, as it shows for iron, is up, our different cards can move in different ways. Gases, for example, can move in all directions, while solids, such as transition metals like iron, can only move forward, one step at a time. Then we also have the power, which shows how strong Iron Centaur is when it comes front to front or face to face with another element in a battle. For Iron Centaur, and for all of our other elements, the power is actually the oxidation state. But we're trying to use these chemical properties along with the gameplay to make a type of combined experience. Let's take a look at a few other element cards. We have Phosphorus Phoenix, and we have Mercury Expander. Phosphorus Phoenix, for example, Phosphorus's description reads that most know that firecrackers and matches are powered by phosphorus flapping its fiery wings. But did you know that it also powers fertilizers and DNA, RNA in cells? For Mercury Expander, I'd like to draw your attention to the italics, which is really the reaction of the element, some special property this element can do in real life. For Mercury, it's that Mercury can expand with heat to move into the location above it and destroy the card there. The element level of this game, we have 5 different levels where you start with just learning about the elements, to reactions and compounds, and some more interesting things with alchemy, chemistry, and physics. In the element level, we just learn about the different elements, about the names, the personalities, the usage, the physical states, and the oxidation states. As we move on to future levels, like the reaction level, we can use different special properties of these elements. Mercury can expand, helium can rise, copper can shock, lithium can store energy, oxygen can rust. We'll learn about the real-life element reactions. When we move on in Elementeo to the compound level, you can start combining these elements to make different compounds. Sodium Dragon, for example, can combine with Chlorine Troll to make salt. You can use these elements in your in the game to help increase gameplay, to make it more exciting, but more importantly, to get more power. So you can finally cross the battlefield with these elements and reduce your opponent's electrons to 0. That's the goal of the game. The 4th level is the alchemy level, where we start using interesting alchemy cards, which are really a combination of chemistry and physics. Black Hole, for example, takes away all the cards from your enemy's hand, but only for their next turn. Slippery Base makes an enemy card slip back to your element's first row by pouring Slippery Base on the battlefield. As you can see, this is really about combining different chemistry and game properties to make for an interesting card, to really bring this chemistry back to life. A different way of tackling education, to help kids explore the world of science through gaming. So now that we know, now that I've talked to you a little bit about what Elementeo is, let's jump into inside the lab, behind the scenes, how the entire product development worked. So it all started off with a prototype, very initial prototype that I called Chemico. And this was in my 4th grade summer, where I initially really started thinking about this. This was, I was really bored, and my parents wouldn't want to play any type of games with me. They thought that they had no education whatsoever. So I thought that, might as well create something that both parents and kids can play, but more importantly, something they agree on. Because, it becomes far too difficult when your parents don't want you to buy any games because they don't have any education, and all you really want to do with your spare time is have some fun. So I started off with this very initial prototype, and when you're doing these prototypes, I personally feel that just get stuff on paper, just start thinking, just start brainstorming. As you can see, this is nowhere close to the real oxygen that we have in the game. Some weird types, fight power, lure power, some description as you can see here. But believe it or not, I ended up getting a $500 grant from the California Association of the Gifted. I gave a 1-page business plan, an Oxygen Life Giver, as you can see here. 1 year later, I was on the next phase of product development, which is R&D, or research and development. Here I began to do a lot of research, stacks of library books, and this was my PowerPoint phase. I really didn't have any professional material like Adobe products that I finally have now, like InDesign and Photoshop and Illustrator. I just had PowerPoint. And I used to make these, and it worked quite well actually for me, as I used to make these different cards, hand-drawn pictures, free photo software that came with the printer. And we went and, we went to the California Association of Gifted conference to show these games, And this was, again, a very, very, very initial prototyping. Just trying to get these thoughts out on paper. Oh, and also, going back to this, when we went to that first conference, we ended up getting some 400 pre-orders for decks. 400 pre-orders in just 90 minutes. That really showed us that people were excited about this product. The third stage of my product development was not only still prototyping, but going on to showing this to more people and getting more feedback. We went to the Thai Entrepreneur Conference in Silicon Valley. They gave us a free booth of a $2,500 value. And that really just sparked a huge media frenzy. We got covered in ABC, NBC, the locals, as well as NPR. And people started to really get excited about, if there's a different way to get kids excited about chemistry, we got a lot of emails, a lot of press, and a lot of publicity. And this was our, people really telling us, the world really telling us that, hey, you really got to start, this is something very interesting, and why don't you take this to the next level? The next level was finally taking this to the point where we get our professional software like Adobe InDesign. And we go, and we decided to go and get help from different places. So I went and met the CEO of Wizards of the Coast. For those who haven't played many card games, Wizards of the Coast were the people that brought Pokemon to North America, the guys that launched Magic the Gathering. Peter Atkinson, who was the CEO of Wizards of the Coast, was a huge help. His team spent an entire day with us and really walked us through these different processes. Getting mentors and advisors is also a huge step of this development process. We used to do late-night trips to FedEx Kinko's to print out some of these cards. And remember, when you don't have the cash and you don't have the investment, it's really helpful to just get these thoughts and get these ideas on paper. We did things with Adobe InDesign. I even went and gave a 45-minute talk to the National Academies of Sciences. They also really liked the idea, giving us another go to go actually make this and bring this to real life. And finally, we had Oxygen Life Giver. So, those of you who are listening to this must be like, wow, whoa, that was a 5-minute blip through how you actually developed this entire thing. But, how did it go from the very initial ideas that we had to suddenly having professional artwork, to having an entire development done, to having an entire game ready to ship and ready to sell? So that required a team. And I really had a virtual team, to say it truthfully, besides me working on my computer at home. This is the different artists we had across the world. This here was one of our artists, Corny. Here, the Web2Grade people who made our logo, all the way to somebody in Europe who helped us with editing, to one of our favorite artists, Sean Seal, who helped with developing many of the cards that you saw in this PowerPoint, like Oxygen Life Giver and Phosphorus Phoenix, to Sandra, one of our people who made the board game, Kara, people who made the compounds, and finally to our manufacturing site in Texas, the people that actually helped us bring this and our ideas and our PDFs and our files to actual board games ready to ship. So here you can see essentially a contrast between a hand-drawn picture and an actual picture by one of our artists, Sean Seal. So again, there's always different stages when you're going with this development. I think it's always good to at least get your hands in the material when you start, and then perhaps you can go for professional help. Especially with Elementeo, I found that to be incredibly helpful because I could actually get a feel of what the product was like long before I actually made significant cash investments. To be able to draw the pictures, use the free photo editing software, use PowerPoint, the tools I had available to actually create as good of a product as I could on my own, so that I could have something to show people and I can have something to see whether it really works, and then go to the final stage with the artists. I found that to be incredibly helpful. Okay. Here's just another picture of all of the different artwork things we had, and I think that this entire process of development also requires a lot of collaboration and cooperation with the different members of your team. That's the fifth part of it. That we have the idea, the first part. We've tried it ourselves, the second part. We've tried to put it on paper, the third part. We've got it printed out. We got the product going. People are liking it, and now 5, working with professionals. And I think that the whole collaboration between them was something that, I don't think I'll really ever forget, because the entire thing happened online. I've never met a single one of these artists ever. I've talked to only one of them, and the rest I've only collaborated with through email. We used an online website, a website called elance.com, which connects you with different professionals. And I got connected with somebody, as I showed you the map of the world earlier, with Chicago, LA, Argentina, India. And essentially, with all this communication happening through email, I would send them a description of the picture that I wanted. They would give me a draft. I would send them another correction set. They would send me a new draft. We would do this again and again and again until we got a perfect picture. These are some of the sample pictures that you can see. Then once we got the picture itself, we would take this and now try to create something out of it. This, as you can see, is Adobe InDesign. This, for people that are interested in creating games or newspapers or anything that has to do heavy on design, Adobe products have worked really well for me, especially Photoshop and InDesign. We merged, we had a big Excel spreadsheet of all of our different information about the elements, merged this with the template that we had, and we got, boom, 40 pages, 40 spreads of different elements, from lithium leprechaun to phosphorus phoenix to copper cyclops, etc. Now, the sixth stage is manufacturing the game. That we have the entire design ready to go from computer to actual product. Here, we had a lot of different things involved, whether the bill of materials, the card size, how big we want the box to be, the mold, how nice we want it to look, the finish of it, the wrapping, whether we want it to be a plastic wrap around the deck, whether we want there to be a board, how big is the board, how thick is the board, all of these things involved. Where you also now start thinking about costs, because this is, although the development also has very significant investments for me, the manufacturing was a huge investment. And I had to think about whether I wanted to get this manufactured overseas or in a place like Texas, in a place in America. We ended up getting this manufactured in Texas with the Yaquinto part of Cardamundi. And the quality was very wonderful, but what you have to then think about as part of this development is how you're really juggling the costs versus the quality. And then there was a bunch of proofreading involved, and they would send us these really, really, really big kind of sheets where there would be all of the 121 cards, and we would sit and laboriously kind of write what's wrong with this, what we have to change, send it back. It was a very, very, very long process. But it was quite interesting as well. Here's an example you can see of the actual spreads, or the actual kind of proof sheets. Now here is, I'm not sure how well you can see this, but an example of a modified quote of just the different things involved in creating this game. This is my sister, but more importantly, this is just how once we did all this production, we got the entire thing manufactured. After this entire product development, now you start really have to think about the company or the business side of things. I have my product, but how am I going to get it to my customer? Well, it first starts off with you need a place to keep these products. So our initial warehouse was our garage. This meant that our cars always had to be parked outside. But there was just a bunch of boxes. We had our first run of 5,000 games, all stuck inside our garage. We later shipped this out to Amazon. Amazon actually helped us do the entire fulfillment. Now, it's all automated. An order comes, ships from Amazon, and it goes straight to their home. The other part of once you create the game and you're ready, as I've been saying before, we also have to go and tell people about it, get people excited. So one of the places I went to was American Chemical Society. And really, don't be afraid at all, at least I would feel, to just, cold email people. That's what I did with the people at American Chemical Society. And I think, be surprised at how helpful everybody is. If you have an idea, you're really excited about it, people will just be, immensely helpful to help you get this off of its initial stages. At American Chemical Society, for example, I had my very first press conference. They did a press release for me, and I got to meet Dr. Tom Lane, who was the president at that time. Played a game with him. He actually ended up buying 50 games on the spot after I finished playing, which is a really great, great thing for me that there's somebody like Dr. Tom Lane who is excited about Elementeo. I'm not sure if you can also see this, but if you look close enough at Elementeo, you can see a red lining on the very top. This is because this was another one of our prototypes, and we actually didn't have the full version made at that time. So we've also gotten we're very lucky to get a lot of publicity, or a lot of press, a lot of people excited, whether from Fox or New York Times or Scholastic or PBS BizKids. And, those type of things come along on their own way. But that's also been very, very exciting, because one thing that I've had to struggle with, one of my challenges, was $0 marketing. How am I supposed to tell everybody about a game that I really don't have any money to market with? And marketing, as you know, is a very, very, very significant part of majority of your costs, in fact, because if people don't know about your game, all of the stuff that you've just done is essentially useless. So you need to get people excited, get people to know, and so far I've been doing things like giving talks. I've been lucky to get some press and doing word-of-mouth marketing. Also, along the way I had an opportunity to get a Davidson Scholarship. And, again, as you slowly go along, these type of activities where you go get to meet different people, you can check this out online, Davidson Scholarship, a bunch of different people from around the country who've done different projects and different activities, kind of were given these scholarships from the Davidson Institute. And we all got together in Washington, D.C. and got to meet with one another. At the end of the day, getting to meet different people, connecting with them, is a really great way, going back to our step one of just getting different ideas. There's, again, more stuff involved in once you get the product done. Now what about distribution, getting this to other stores? So the game currently sells at Amazon.com, Exploratorium, MIT Museum Store, and other select retail stores across the country. We got to go to the National Association of Gifted Children's Conference, Puerto Rico. We went there. I went there to give a talk at American Chemical Society, North America, or a specific section conference. Went to the Maker Fair to show everybody the game. Really, 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 really fun stuff. Getting to show people what it's all about. So that was essentially, my kind of development journey, going again from the very initial idea to getting this off the ground and getting this shipping product that people are buying today. People are liking it, and people have given us, very excited to say, wonderful reviews. And you can check us out online at www.elementeo.com. So I want to talk a little bit more about entrepreneurship. A lot of times it feels like these days, especially in our school systems, that, where's the creativity? Where's the innovation? Where's the excitement? We've almost began to think really small, memorizing things, almost getting mass-produced, rather than really being entrepreneurs. We need a generation of entrepreneurs. All of you who are listening today, hopefully you got a chance to take a look at what I've been doing for the past few years. It was a very long process. You have to stick with it, stay with the commitment that once you get an idea, just don't let it go if you really think something like that's going to work. A lot of times we get excited about something, a few weeks into the process, we just drop it and go pick up something else. Let me just say that the process of creating Elementeo itself took 3 years, and that was just until I went to high school. I'm a junior in high school now, and it's still going. The process is still continuing. This is a total of a very, very long journey that's been extremely exciting and really amazing. It's not to think that the only time I've really been able to have fun with this is after it's done in the next 3 years. Every step of the way, you get really exciting products, really exciting ideas. The brainstorming of it makes really exciting. So it comes down to 3 different things. The first is experimentation. Discovering things with yourself, playing the concept, learning as much stuff as you can, so you're able to collect the different dots. Then you connect them. In the connection stage, you do prototyping, you think big, you explore. And then finally you start to make. And I found that, not to be afraid to go and get help from other people, because what I found is that there've been so many different people who have been helpful. We were lucky to get our legal help pro bono, to get a lot of help from our advisors, whether from entrepreneurial groups or for people abroad. A lot of great people who have been willing to just lend a helping hand. And I think that's what it comes down to, that if you have an idea, it really, really is possible. Just not to think small, really, really think big. And if you put your time into it, if it's something that you can really get a prototype out of, you can get something making, you can get something creating, then I really think you should go for it. So, create, combat, conquer. Create new ideas, combat the obstacles, and conquer the world. I'm Anshul Samar, CEO of Alchemist Empire Inc., and the creator of the Elementeo chemistry card game. I hope you had a good time listening to me talk and this PowerPoint presentation. Good luck on your future endeavors, and you can send me an email at oxygen@elementeo.com, Oxygen at ELENENTEO.com for if you would like to talk, discuss, brainstorm, or anything at all.